from a policy standpoint, I think that's what we want to really get into in terms of like, because libertarians are our anti-war friends.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are unapologetically anti-war, and I try to keep that in mind when I do discuss it, because sometimes, you know, people get really emotional about this topic, and you can, when you're trying to have a dialogue with someone and engage with them in good faith, I think there's a tendency for me, especially, you know, personally, to be take a little bit of an apologetic tone. And I always try to check myself, like, there's no reason to apologize for not wanting to murder people overseas. Very basic. You know? I'm so sorry. I don't support murdering people overseas. Right. That's as apologetic, you know, as I feel that I can become on this issue. I'm glad it's something that we agree on. It's an issue that is really hard to take a principled stand on when it's, you know, when you have huge lobbying groups pushing back against you, when you have people trying to craft political narratives and say that it's just a progressive issue, it's just far left activists who block traffic. It's just, and it's like, no, you know what? Like, this is a human issue. It shouldn't be a left-right issue. It's just like, you know, like the anti-war position is a pro-family issue. Like, we want to keep families intact. We want to save children's lives. It's just like, it's the end-all be-all issue. It can certainly be an economic issue, but really, like, this transcends economic arguments. I mean, when it comes to war, just in general, like, there's no economic theory in nuclear winter.
Yeah. Right. No, and your money's not gonna buy clean water for you either. No. Like, it's like the damage and destruction that the war does to infrastructure and all of the stuff from the military-industrial complex is not anything that benefits anybody except the profiteers at the top of those businesses, and that's it. The rest of us, nobody else benefits from any of that.
No, it's totally nuts. It's totally insane. Scott Horton is someone you guys should try to get on your show at some point. He's just a prolific author. He's at a KPFK radio show for a really long time. He's a libertarian and he comes from the left. And the way that he breaks down the Afghanistan war in his book Fool's Errand, it's so like humbling and shocking, and like it kind of makes you like cringe and feel humiliated that you didn't realize how bad it is. He talks about like the people in Afghan, these goat herders who've never heard of New York City. They don't know anything, you know, like some of them have never seen television. And right. We're going over there with this absurd notion, trying to explain to them what a metropolis area is and 9/11 and airplanes. And they're like, a town, a village. So a bunch of villages. And then they did what? And we're like, in this thing that you have never heard of and you have no concept of, that's why we got to murder everyone around here and bomb all of your weddings. And it's like Kafka-esque. It's so absurd, and you know, horrifically tragic. But man, what a trip.
Angela, without question, and you know, we had communicated with Justin Amash in the past. The best. Certainly, from a left perspective, the most principled member of the GOP is Thomas Massie. I don't even think it's close. Yeah. You know, he's seemingly the only person who really is principled on this issue. Like, he's not wishy-washy. He doesn't try to play to the Democratic establishment like some supposed anti-war representative is supposed to be. Can you talk about the overarching effect of corporate special interest money in the political arena, which is also a tremendous crossover between progressives and libertarians? Get the corporate filth the F out of politics.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what happens is well-meaning people, a few of them, find their way into politics, and then they become constrained by this because they get threatened. You know, we're not going to reelect you. We're going to run someone really hard against you who's much worse on this issue than you would be, you know. And so it essentially gatekeeps. So you'll have other people who are mostly anti-war, right? All of a sudden they can't talk about it if it's Israel. And it's not because they agree privately, but they know that it'll just destroy their career. And so they're incentivized, even if it's just purely out of fear, to not overstep their bounds. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this if they didn't have corporate interest in it.
No. We wouldn't be able to be doing this if AIPAC had to register as foreign agent.
Certainly not. Which is
yeah.
totally, it's completely insane. I'm very sympathetic to Jewish people who talk about, you know, like your family going through the Holocaust, concentration camps. It's awful. And just like people who have, you know, who talk about the Armenian genocide in their history, like I certainly think that there is a place for you in the United States, wherever. Yes, you have a right to exist. No, you don't have a right to the United States taxpayers propping up an ethno-state for you overseas. Like those are very different issues, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about taxes for a second, because we here are very much supporters of the idea of modern monetary theory. That is something that, you know, we are, you know, proponents of. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about things, like I'm always very careful not to say it's, you know, tax dollars, because on the federal level, our tax dollars don't do anything. They don't go anywhere. There's nobody sitting in a room and counting up all the taxes they got in this year and saying, okay, this is how much we have. Okay, we can afford that vacation this year, right? Like that's not how it works on a federal level. And I think this is one of the biggest issues that we generally have with libertarians, is it's almost like using things like that as an excuse to support austerity. And austerity is something that is, you know, equated to murder in some cases, because a lot of people would be dead or will be dead. So that's where the problem is. So like, I'm curious, economically speaking, when we talk about that, like, and what I say is, I don't want our collective resources supporting Israel. I don't want our collective resources doing anything, but I just generally avoid saying our, you know, people's tax dollars, because it's completely unrelated. If we didn't pay federal income taxes, the same amount of money would still be going to Israel. Which makes you wonder why we have federal income tax anyway. That's a topic for another, you know, like that I get behind getting rid of that crap. Yeah.
That's a very interesting perspective. I mean, I'm a hardcore proponent of Austrian economics. I don't want the money printer to go brr, you know, like I don't like inflation. And I worry that it's going to cause economic collapse, but I would certainly agree with you that I don't want any of our shared collective or otherwise resources going to support, you know, what happens overseas. And I mean, it's like a big mess to untangle how the whole thing really does come together. You know, how did we have this very, very simple constitutional document that was set together, you know, by the framers a few hundred years ago. And I think that it's the best document that we have, but it didn't really work that well, did it? But it didn't really work because we have all these undeclared wars.
Because we're not following it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So how did we get from point A to point B? And then it kind of brings, you know, like might makes right. You know, and
we had 9/11 and the Patriot Act, which then basically got rid of our 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights. And then ever since we've had the authorization for military force, the unauthorized AU authorized, you know, the AUMA, whatever that one. So the president basically bypasses, and we don't have to deal with Congress, and he could just do whatever he wants. And it's truly insane. Yeah. Like we've reached a point of, I don't even understand what's the point of having rules at all. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.